Hi everyone, welcome to the engine channel. Today we'll be taking things apart. This engine here is a Mercedes 447, a naturally aspirated 6-cylinder inline engine. It operates in a horizontal position and it was taken from a bus like this. The bus belongs to our company. So what's the reason for removing the engine? It broke down. Oil was pouring out by the liter through the exhaust pipe. They removed the exhaust manifold and it turns out the third cylinder head is throwing oil. But at least here there was a real puddle. All the manifolds were wet. Since the engine is already old, I'll explain later and tell you how long it's been running and so on. But it's specifically the third cylinder. There's a puddle here, everything is wet. Right on the spot they removed the head, replaced it with another one, tightened everything up and started the engine. And also oil is coming out of the exhaust manifold, so they decided to remove and repair the engine. Most likely it will be a minor repair, but in any case we need to disassemble it first, check the overall condition of the engine, and then it will be clear based on the mileage. I know that we have two such buses and one of them has been running since 2008. In my opinion, it already has 2 million kilometers for sure. Since 2 million have been driven at our company, because the same driver has been working with it since 2008, meaning it arrived at our company in 2008. So up to today, up to 2020, that's 18 years. In 18 years, it has covered 2 million kilometers. That means nothing has been done to the engine. Or there's a second, exactly the same bus. They arrived together, so it has about the same mileage, the same year of manufacture. Well, actually like that. The second bus came to our company that same year too. As far as I know, I worked on it somewhere around 2010, 2011 or 2012. And a new piston assembly was installed there. So right now, I can't remember either one of the engines I worked on about 14 or 15 years ago, or an engine that hasn't been opened at all yet, meaning I haven't worked on it yet. But now we'll take it apart. I think we'll see. There, either by the bearings or the fact that our engine runs with an automatic transmission. You can see there's no clutch, there's a damper plate, and it's attached to the converter with 2 bolts each, so 6 bolts in total. The gearbox stayed in place, meaning we didn't even remove it from the bus. But we did take off the manifold, the starter, and something else. As I mentioned, we tried to do it on the spot, started it without the manifold, and the oil has already been drained. Also, I just drained the remaining oil from the plug there. Here it is. As you can see, the compressor is assembled like this. I made it, the compressor, the cylinder. I took a new housing from some engine. You can see it's painted red, so I painted it myself. Probably, as far as I can see, the oil pan was removed at some point. You can see the gasket is held on with wire. That's how I do it. So here the engine is mounted horizontally, and when you put the oil pan on, it's not very convenient. There are 2 pickups there. So you have to twist it like this and install it. So I always tie the gasket with these copper wires, as you can see. So the oil pan was removed in one piece here. I can't say more precisely what was done and when. So I'm starting to take it apart. First, I remove everything. Here on top, all the attachments, the mount, the compressor, all these pipes, the intake manifold. I take everything off here. Then we open the cylinder heads, remove the oil pan, take out the crankshaft and pistons, check their condition, and make a decision. In general, to put it briefly, I just don't know. It's an amazing, excellent engine. It's as simple as possible to repair. So, do you currently have all this auxiliary equipment installed on top of it? So here you literally unscrew about 10 bolts, and you could say you're left with a bare block. I don't know. One of my favorite engines, the simplest, the most reliable, the best engine to repair, in my opinion. That's it. So, that's the scope of work we have. Приступаем. I'm draining the oil from the filter, and I see that there's fine shavings like silver dust. I'm not sure how much, but it's probably not visible on camera. I'm leaving the oil to drain. It'll take about half an hour for everything to come out of the cap and the filter, and in the meantime I'll remove the air intake manifold. If we look at the air intake manifold gaskets, we can see the Mercedes logo here and the original Mercedes part number. Okay. So these gaskets are still the factory ones. See, I don't know what year this engine was made. If I find out, I'll write it in the subtitles. But in any case, it's probably from the 1990s. So, from the 1990s. We still have the air intake manifold gaskets. Original ones. So I'll answer right away why I didn't wash the engine. This engine has already been washed, so you can see where the jet didn't reach behind the manifold. You can see how much dirt is still there. There was, I don't know, a 2-inch layer of dirt on it. Like everything was completely covered in a flat layer. You couldn't see these tubes. You couldn't see any of these protrusions on the block and so on. So you can see how much is behind the manifold. You can see how thick the layer of dirt is here. The whole engine was in this condition. This is our already washed engine. You can see that in some places we've knocked off the biggest dirt, but in any case it still needs to be washed and cleaned further. So next I'll be removing the injectors. I've cleaned and blown out this area as much as possible. Here basically I take a thin drill bit and use it to clean out these teeth because the dirt is so packed in that nothing else can get it out. So according to updated information, this engine has never been worked on before. I mean, it's never been removed from the vehicle, from the bus, and never fully disassembled. That is, the crankshaft is still here in place. Everything is original, the camshaft, the bushings, the bearings, and so on. So about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, I worked on this engine. What was done? We removed the head and basically replaced the liner on the second cylinder. I don't remember what happened. So we removed the head, took off the oil pan, replaced the liner. I think the piston took, well, I don't know exactly. I don't remember for sure. The point is that about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, we removed the head, took out one piston, took off the oil pan. That's why there are these ties on the oil pan, the ones I mentioned earlier. And the driver told me that during the last repair, when they removed the second cylinder, I mentioned about the bearings, that the engine is 32 years old. So if you add another 2 years, let's say the engine is 34 years old now. It's 2026 minus 34. So basically, this is a 1992 engine. Well, that's what I thought. It's somewhere from the early 90s. So since the early 90s, it hasn't been overhauled even once in 34 years. And as I already mentioned, it's been running at our facility since 2008, so that's already 18 years. In these 18 years, 8 years it has definitely covered more than 2 million kilometers. And before that, as I understand it, this engine was never repaired, so it was running in Germany or somewhere else. So at the very least, This engine has run 3 million kilometers, maybe even 4. Alright, now I'm gonna try unscrewing the injector wrench, a 36 mm socket, I think, and my new cordless impact wrench. Next, I'm unscrewing the injectors, and I think it's going to be very difficult to get them out. For that, I also have a special puller. It hasn't been on video for a long time, but you'll see it in a moment. The puller is also excellent, really great. I've been using it for years, thanks to the person who sent it to me. The third one came out easily because I literally installed it just a week ago. So I'm taking off the valve covers, and I want to show that there's an emulsion on each valve cover. Actually, the problem with these engines is that the rubber seals under the sleeves get hard and coolant starts leaking into the oil. That is, it gradually gets in there drop by drop. In the hot oil, all of this evaporates and the oil itself becomes thicker and stickier. There have been repeated cases where even after this, the rack on the fuel pump would get stuck, and as a result the engine would run out of control. That is, this can last for months or even years. On this engine, I think it's been running like this for several years for sure, because even 2 years ago, when we worked on the number 2 cylinder, this problem was already there. So when we take apart the engine, I'll show you the condition of the seals under the sleeves, and we can see that there's this kind of emulsion on each valve cover. I'll film it with another camera so you can see clearly what it all looks like. You can tell which rocker arms I've unscrewed just by how the impact wrench works. That is, I had to use force to unscrew the second and third ones, but the first, fourth, fifth and sixth came off almost effortlessly. Alright, next I'm removing the water pump. As for the pump, I don't remember if it was ever repaired or not, but most likely it was, because as we can see, there's sealant applied there. And here we can see, play again, again. So, we will definitely have to repair the pump. So I removed the pump, and I want to show you the condition of the water jacket. As you can see, everything in there is covered with flakes like this. And the cylinder liner itself is the same way. The problem will be removing the cylinder liner because it will get stuck on all these deposits. In general, it will be hard to take out. Here, well, for example, right here where the impeller moves, everything is still more or less in good condition. But in some places, there are flakes like this. Another thing to note. Here are the covers. The one that closes the camshaft. We have this kind of sensor coming off here. Basically, this is where the speedometer sensor is installed. Well, I think this is the sensor that shows us. Well, basically it goes to the tachometer. There. Usually it comes from the alternator. But on this engine it comes from the camshaft. I kind of knew about this. I saw that there is a little blade on the camshaft. There. But this is the first time I've seen it in real life. Well, I mean, all the engines before this, the 407s, the 447s, I've never seen anything like that anywhere. There, we can see that there's some play here. Everything here is covered in oil with these buildups as well. There, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I'll take it apart and see what happened here, what the problem is. Maybe it can be fixed, maybe not. As an option, I'll put a plug here. Well, then the electrician will have to run the tachometer of the alternator. Well, or I'll do everything the way it should be, if it works out, because I don't have these spare parts. As I said, this is my first time seeing this. I think it's completely broken. Well, anyway, let's not guess. As usual, we'll take it apart and see. So, now I want to remove the fuel pump. Here we already have the high pressure fuel pump. I've already checked here. All right, something like that. And basically I got it. I see that it has never been removed before. There's a fourth bolt over there. Here, 1, 2, 3. And it turns out the fourth bolt is in the most inconvenient place. You need a special wrench to unscrew it. Well, I have one. But usually I just put a stud in there, screw it in, and leave it without a nut. So there's a stud installed just to keep oil from leaking out of there, because the hole goes all the way through. It comes out. So where is it for us? The oil circulates and gets splashed around by the gears. This hole opens into this niche. I usually install a stud there. Well, and I mount the pump with 3 bolts. So, at least personally, I definitely haven't removed this pump. As I said before, the bus has been running at our company for almost 20 years. For 20 years, I've been the only engine mechanic at this company. That's right. So it turns out that the pump has never been removed since the engine was manufactured. Well, there's also another piece of evidence supporting this version. Here I'm showing the shaft. Everything here is extremely worn out. So it feels like not only the bushing is worn out, but there's nothing left of the bushing at all. And even the housing itself is already damaged. Yeah, I haven't seen something like this in a long time either. Maybe I've never even seen anything like this before, where this shaft and these bushings were so worn out. Usually there's just a little bit of play here and the oil starts leaking already. There are oil seals there. Maybe there was an oil leak here too, since the engine was coated in a layer about 5 centimeters thick. All this compressed dirt and so on. So maybe there really was an oil leak here. That's it. So now I want to remove the pump. I'll unscrew the cap. You definitely need to check at what angle the pump is set. Because there were absolutely no problems with this engine. I mean, with power, with fuel consumption, so there are absolutely no problems at all. Neither the drivers complained, nor did the manager have any questions about fuel consumption. So, I'll say it again, the wear here is just a few, I don't know, millimeters. Here and there, most likely the rings already have a gap, a thermal gap of a few millimeters. Considering all this, the engine ran without issues. That is in terms of power and fuel consumption. You can see, yes, sometimes everything is worn out. Where oil is leaking. In general, the whole engine is in this condition. But it was running, and overall everyone was satisfied, everyone liked it. I removed the counterweights. First, I loosened them with my homemade forged socket and breaker bar. Then, I unscrewed them with an impact wrench, so they were tightened. Now I want to unscrew several main caps at once, just to check the condition of the bearings, the sizes, and so on. I mean, the year of manufacture. And right away, we'll take out the third piston and see what happened to it. So, this is the condition of the bearing. Well, basically this was expected after 3 or 4 million kilometers. We don't know the exact mileage of the engine, but after that kind of mileage, the bearings will be in about this condition. So this is a standard one, the Mercedes logo. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but I'll add photos at the end of the video. So, we can see that this is, I can't see, it's hard to make out on this bearing, some year in the 1990s. Alright, I'll take the next bearing and have a look. Well, basically it's even, the bearing is evenly worn. There are no scuffs, no scratches, nothing, just even wear. Here's the condition of the connecting rod bearings. They're a bit better, but this is the one in the rod cap. The bearing inside the rod itself is likely a bit worse. Alright, let's take out the third and fourth pistons and see what the reason is. Alright, this is our fourth piston. We can see that the oil control ring is just missing. It doesn't even have those ridges left. It's just completely smooth. It's clear that the oil is just going straight into the cylinder. And also the compression ring, we can see how thin it is. Basically, all the rings are completely worn out. Just to show you clearly, let's insert it into the neighboring sleeve instead of the worn one. Well, the gap is about this much, about 3 millimeters, give or take, so it's an even wear. The ring has a sharp, honed edge, meaning the wear is uniform. There's nothing critical, no scoring, no breaks, nothing like that. Well, I'll also remove the oil control ring right now for clarity and insert it into the cylinder so it's visible. So, the oil scraper ring, it fits in almost perfectly without effort, meaning it's not pressed against the cylinder liner. The gap is 4 to 5 millimeters and it basically doesn't hold in there at all. Well, the piston is basically in satisfactory condition. The groove is a bit worn out, but in any case, no one is going to replace the piston. We're going to do just minimal repairs, just enough to make the engine work so it can run for a year and a half, maybe 2. Well, most likely we'll just replace the piston rings, the liners and the seals, but the pistons themselves will stay the same. The bushings are worn, but we probably won't touch the connecting rods. Everything will remain as is. Well, just because that's how it is. Well, in general, I don't see anything here that would make this piston different from the fourth one. The only thing is, maybe the rings are even more worn. Yeah, we can see it's really thin. The gap here will likely exceed 5 millimeters. Well, maybe just a little more, like by 1 millimeter. It's just really strange why the oil started leaking so suddenly. I mean, before that, the vehicle was working, the bus was running its route, and then, literally after a shift or two, drivers started adding about 5 liters of oil per shift. It's very strange why all this happened so suddenly, isn't it? There are no brakes, nothing is broken, but of course, the wear on this oil scraper ring is much greater. You can clearly see that it's really thin. Let's see what kind of gap we have. So, it doesn't hold there at all. I can't even set it. It just... Well, the gap is about 6 millimeters. Basically, the reason is that the oil control rings are completely worn out, and actually all the piston rings are completely worn out. The oil control rings and the compression rings. Well, even the camshaft is in excellent condition. That is, the camshaft journals are basically perfect, and the cam lobes here are literally, well, you could say, also in perfect condition. For this kind of mileage, that is, there are no chipped ones, none are particularly worn down. I don't know, from what I've noticed, Mercedes camshafts generally have fewer chips than MAN ones. With MAN ones, for example, at this mileage, 100% of the cams would be chipped, but on Mercedes, as we can see, everything is just in excellent condition. So I took out the rubber seals, and we can see that basically they haven't completely hardened over this period. But in any case, they've already cooked, meaning their cross section is no longer round, but rectangular. Well, we can see some rubber seals. They tore, and somewhere here they got eaten away. These are the new rubber seals on the second liner. I replaced those, well, I don't know, about 2 years ago. Well, and these are all the others. Here, some of them are torn into really small pieces. Here, I mean, from these rubber seals, coolant gets into the oil drop by drop. Well, it's clear. As I mentioned earlier, I explained how and why. So I've already started cleaning the engine block. I cleaned here. There were some shots. Now I'll remove the biggest dirt here, and then I'll tie it up for washing. I'll be preparing it for machining. So the block will go for machining, the mating surface, and the cylinder head. We can see some corrosion here, especially on the partitions between the liners. As usual, there's a bit here, well, at least 3/10 for sure, yeah. So they'll machine the cylinder head surface, machine the seats, and restore the liner seats. Well, and I don't know yet about the main bearings, about the main bearing seats. For now, I don't know, maybe that work will be done too. So, the engine is disassembled. Let's sum up. Well, for this kind of mileage, the engine is in excellent condition. There's even wear everywhere, and there are no critical issues anywhere, like scoring cracks or anything like that. That's it. So, everything is perfect, just even wear over time. So, what are we going to do with this engine? Camshaft parts, lifters, standard size main, and rod bearings, new sleeves, new seals. All of this will be done. Well, in general, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe we'll leave everything as it is. Maybe we'll wait on the rods. I don't know yet. Well, maybe the fuel equipment will go for inspection, and also the cylinder heads will get a full repair, including replacing the guides. We may need to replace the exhaust valves, but we'll take it apart and see. And the cylinder heads will also go to the surface grinder. I'll take apart the compressor while the engine is out. It appears it was serviced recently, but I'll still disassemble and inspect it. Maybe I'll replace the piston rings and bearings, just minimal repairs like that. And of course there will be a repair kit for the pump as well. So when I was taking it apart, I showed how the bearing was worn out, how much play there was. So this is our disassembly series. Next will be episode 12, however many episodes it ends up taking. For assembling this engine, I'll paint the engine if possible, and we'll definitely film the startup on the bench. That's it. That's our video. That's our engine. Thank you all for watching. Good luck to everyone. Goodbye.